If I had to do a price to quality ratio, it would look something like this. Ladies and gentlemen, get ready because we're going on an adventure. Today, we're traveling to the legendary islands of Avalon. You know, the Avalon from the Arthurian legends? But as we land on shore, there's nothing but weirdness. No, not that kind of weirdness. Weirdness. This thing that consumes reality itself. It's pretty weird, I know. Well, to make a long story short, we died, all of our people died, and now I'm being talked to by a goat. Well, my soul is, because I died.
Now, listen, there's a lot to do and no time to waste.
Exactly, so let's get to the part where he tells us that we still have things to do and we can reincarnate into a new vessel. 1 out of 9 vessels, actually. Those are all the playable classes in the game. Man, I do hope I make the leaderboards with some of them. Confused yet? Me too. Well, what exactly is this game? According to its Steam page, it's an infinitely playable, story-driven hybrid between a deck-building roguelike and an RPG game. Wow, that's a handful. Alright, so let's give it a shot and choose the character we like. Remember the goat? Well, he's like, hey, can you kill the golem for me? And maybe while you're at it, the final boss too. You know, the usual. I mean, our village is pretty empty and we don't have much else to do, so... Alright, let's look for the golem. Are you the golem? You don't look like the golem. But we get to fight you anyway. And with cards too. I mean, the game did mention something about deck building earlier. Hey, what's that noise? It's those damn neighbors again, isn't it? But wait, I'm alone in the weirdness.
I have no hope, no home, no gold. Mine is but misty morn and cold.
And that isn't the weirdest thing I've seen today.
Despite their grim existence, settlers were grateful to the goddess, and they had good reason to be.
Who is this person and why is she narrating my experience? Wait, is that my inner voice? I never knew I sounded so feminine. Narrator, inner voice, whatever. She does a pretty good job explaining what's going on. But amongst all the monsters and reality consuming, there's also cool characters scattered around. Like Little Kid or Blacksmith. Just
What am I doing
Blacksmith.
Here? Well, looking for
The difference between Little
obviously.
Kid and Blacksmith is that Blacksmith actually wants to join my village and help me out a bit. And just like Blacksmith, there's people like Scientist that also want to join our village and help us traverse the murderous weirdness. They also have things that they want you to do for them, because you're the one who does all the things around here. But let's not lose sight of what's important. We've made it to the goal. Damn, the music kinda slaps though. And we died. I was too busy jamming to the music. But that's okay. We've unlocked new cards, new passive skills, and even a new class. These are sure to be helpful in the future. And all the progress we've made with our weird friends is still there. So let's try our new class and embark on the journey once again. But this time, things will be different. Insert Rocky montage. not only the golem, but the final boss too. Do I get a cookie? Unfortunately, no. But the goat comes up to us and is like, "Hey, do that again." Smiley face. But because we did beat the final boss, everything weirdness related is now a bit more pissed at us. I get it, I'd be too. And so the game just got more difficult. Now at the time of making this video, I've got around 60 hours put into the game. Granted, a lot of those hours are video production related, but either way I'm at difficulty 10 now, and would like to look back and talk a bit about the game. When I first saw that there were 9 classes, I was pretty excited, but then I realized that these are divided into 3 subclasses that are all pretty similar to each other, and I was a little bit less excited. But let me explain those. There are the Children of Morrigan, the Warrior subclasses, then there's the Moonring, the Mage subclass, and then the Watchers of Tuatan, the Archer subclass. All the subclasses within the same class share the same deck, with the exception of 1 or 2 special cards. And in that sense they are very similar, but they are also very different. And here's why. Each class is designed to function around its special or ultimate ability, and every time you level up you get to pick a passive skill and 1 out of 3 cards. While the Apostate and Zealot have the same base deck with the exception of a few special cards, they rely on completely different strategies. Some of the standouts are the Necromancer who can turn himself into a Lich, or the Barbarian who likes to take some hits and then dish them back out with some lifesteal. None of the classes are boring, but for some of them you might need to figure out how to make it work first. My worst experience with this game has been when I just couldn't do that. But once you've figured it out with the right kind of deck and the right kind of upgrades, the game really starts picking up. But it's not all roses and sunshine for Tainted Grail. After the initial wonder wears off, you realize that a lot of things are quite repetitive. You meet the same kind of characters, you fight the same kind of monsters, you play the same kind of classes, and you explore the same 3 maps. Although there is a bit of variation. All these things are randomized, but it's nothing I haven't seen before. Most of the quests I have done, and there's not that many anymore. Currently, this is my biggest complaint about this game, but let's discuss the quests for a bit while we're on the topic. The quests are not really that straightforward. Every encounter or event that is out there in the weirdness is somewhat random, so it usually takes you quite a while to come across the event, NPC, or place you need to complete your quest. I don't think this is necessarily a bad thing, as it's a very interesting twist on the usual RPG genre. Another deviation from the usual is that progression happens over multiple different runs as you unlock more cards, more passive skills, and more permanent upgrades from your NPCs. There are also the usual such as stats, equipment in the form of runestones, and consumables. But while I do enjoy this, I can't really call this game an RPG, because most, if not all of your character development is random. The consumables you get are random. What kind of runestones you get are random. The passive skills you get after level up are also random. Whether you find blacksmith out in the woods to give you a stat boost is also random.
Round object filled with light.
Now let's move on to the deck building. While cards are one of the main mechanics in the game, deck building is kind of its weak point. It's not that the cards or the decks are poorly designed, in fact, I think they are awesome. But the problem is, you can't really call this game a deck building game, because you don't really build a deck. You have one main deck that is always the same, and after every level up you choose one card out of a pool of 3, and that pool is random. In 20 level ups, you get to see 60 cards and choose 20 of those to put them in your deck. And you can't just remove cards from your deck either. In fact, removing cards from your deck is a scarce resource, and rarely are you allowed to do it. I understand why this is a thing from a balancing perspective. You want to make intelligent choices and not just bloat your deck. While I don't see anything wrong with this, it's the labels that the game puts on itself that are the problem. It's not an RPG game, and it's not a deck building game. It's a roguelike game with RPG and deck building elements. So now that we've defined what this game actually is, a roguelike, let's talk about it from that aspect. Roguelikes are some of the best at rewarding progression, and Tainted Grail does a great job at that. Chances are your first run results in death. It might even take you a while to get a victory. But once you actually get there, you realize that you got so much better as a player. And then the game increases its difficulty, so that you have to become better again. All the things that make it less of an RPG and less of a deck building game, like the randomness I just complained about earlier, make it that much better of a roguelike. Every run is going to be different, and every class is going to be different based on how you build it and what kind of luck you have. Dying 10 times in a row and then coming back in your next run to become an unstoppable force of nature and smack the game around like it's nobody's business is, in my opinion, one of Tainted Grail's highest points.
One eternity later. Okay.
But once you get to a certain power level, the game is already won. You know it, your neighbor knows it, the game itself knows it, and there's nothing to be done about it. You get to enjoy the overpowered monster that you've now created, but the tension is gone. Well, there's actually one thing to hold tension for. I briefly mentioned the leaderboards 10 minutes ago, and if you manage to find the super duper secret special boss and defeat him, you can get on the leaderboard. This might be enough incentive to keep grinding and to stay on your A game. Like these three gentlemen here who must have spent an entire week in the boss fight. If you're the type of person that likes to go really hard and min-max the game and show your leaderboard score off to your friends, then you're gonna have a great time with Tainted Grail. But even if you're not, Tainted Grail has an easy mode, where you can just enjoy the rich story that this game has. And it really does have a pretty rich background. First of all, the setting is awesome. I love me some Welsh apocalyptic mythology. All the characters in the game have believable stories and are voiced really well. Everything that is happening makes sense in a kind of weird way. The writing is something that I have never gotten bored of. The game, on the other hand, can get a bit repetitive once you've sunk enough hours in. I still have plenty of things to explore and a few things to unlock, but the magic I felt when I first played this game isn't there anymore. And that's totally fine. I can't and won't expect every game to keep me hooked for thousands of hours. It's just the labels the game puts on itself are a bit ambitious. Is it infinitely replayable? Technically, yes. But so is any game.
Oh shit, here we go again.
It's definitely more replayable than your average single player game, But completing a playthrough of Kingdom Come Deliverance, for example, might take you 60 hours, where completing a playthrough of Tainted Grail might only take you 3. So is replayability really the metric we should base games on? I don't think so. I think we should look at the hours played, especially in comparison to the amount of money spent. And for a price point of 16 euros, Tainted Grail has a lot of things going for it. I'm pretty surprised with the sound design and soundtrack for the game. But what I am disappointed by are some of the visuals and animations. I would love to see every card have its own individual animation, but unfortunately a lot of them are recycled. Not all of them, but a lot of them. Some of the animations do leave a lot to be desired. When you duplicate cards, especially ones that hit multiple opponents, the second animation goes so fast you think it just kinda skips over it. Here's a slow-mo. But I can't really ask for all these things in a game that cost me only 16 euros. I wish price was more considered in game reviews. Maybe there should even be a separate classification. Because of course a AAA game that charges you 60 euros, that has hundreds of employees working on the game for years, is going to be a lot more polished and visually pleasing. I don't usually like rating games in my videos, but if I had to do a price to quality ratio, it would look something like this. If you found what I presented in this video interesting and don't mind some of the rough edges of the game, then I definitely recommend it. And that concludes our journey to the legendary island of Avalon. Hope you guys had fun, and as always, thanks for watching.